Welcome to Read Between the Wines, where two bibliophiles discuss our love of the written word from cover to cover and cork to glass. Pour yourself a beverage and join us for this week's episode. Cheers! Hello, hello. Don't we look lovely today? I swear there's a reason for this. I swear. And we'll get into it.
Milady.
Right, but like what better way to celebrate today's book chat, book talk, than with a little accessorizing?
Or, it's just a random Tuesday.
It could be just a random weekday. It's fine as well. Whatever. There are no rules any longer.
There
So I think that's fine.
no rules.
I will tell you, as much as I love mine, it does, like if I wear it for too long, it hurts, right? Because it's metal.
Yeah. Oh.
And
I will not be moving my head much if I appear a little stiff today. There's
it's
a
okay, there's no
lot
nodding.
balancing.
Yes, but yours was custom made. So
It is.
mine is definitely not custom made.
I will give you my regal. I'm just gonna conduct the whole
Just
episode like this.
the
It's fine.
entire discussion is with just an air of. So I am on TikTok. I watch Queen Estrella. And so and she like always has a whole bunch of like, I think she's got a tiara collection or a crown collection of like way too many,
Yes.
whatever number that is, right?
Yes.
Love her to pieces. But I will say, I knew to put my hair up because that's the kind of crown I was wearing.
Yes.
And I was like, it's a tiara and you have to pull your hair back when you wear this kind. Do I know why? Absolutely not. Did I do it anyway? Absolutely. So why exactly have we chosen such regal headwear today? You
So
do know
we
why.
we why did we
Why
agree?
did we?
So I have talked you into reading The Empress. This is your first Kristin Cast book.
It is.
If you remember back, we talked about this. I said this is basically like my go-to author whenever I
Yeah.
see anything with her name. And you had not read anything by her, and I knew that The Empress had just come out. And I was like, this is going to be perfect. We need to read this. So
It is.
we are dressed accordingly
So
today.
here we are. Because we have both finished it, I will say there will be spoilers in this episode because I'm going to talk about it, right?
I was
I'm
going to
going to
say,
talk about
how
it.
are we
We're
going to
going to
do
discuss
this?
it. Like, I'm not even going to put the little, like, I'll put the little thing up there. It's like, there will be spoilers. But I'm also saying with my full face, there will be spoilers because I have things to say. No bad things, but I have things to say. Because
And we
I think you
just
and I
can't
both,
contain them.
right? The book is lovely. I love it. It's got our lovely red pages, right?
Right?
It's a cute book.
It is so fun. And I knew it would just be perfect. And I love that it came out. And we made the agreement last video
We
that
did.
this is the one. We were like, you know what? We're just going to dive in. Let's both read it. Let's both finish it. Let's both talk about it. I think it was done in a weekend, right?
Yeah, I think you had said something, you had texted me and you were like, oh, like, where are you in it? And I was like, you're done?
Yes.
And you were like, yeah, I'm finished. And I was like, okay. And I see why, right? Because I also read it. It's not a long read, especially because when
Equally
you
as
get into it,
quick.
like when you get into it, you get into it. And like, it's great.
Yes. Yes.
I had a little bit of like trepidation going in because I do read tarot. Like
Yes.
as part of the person that I am, I'm a tarot reader. And so when you have this book that is tarot-esque, like it starts off with,
Hmm.
the tarot part of the story, she visits a tarot reader, etc., etc. But it even has like a tarot spread in the beginning, which
Yes.
I have
Did you
not done
do it?
yet. But
Ah,
no, but it's right, like it's right
yeah.
here, and it
It's
gives you
like
all the things, and it gives you the
starts.
questions,
Yes.
and I love that. But I was like how close are we staying to like the general understanding of tarot, or are we going with what like the tarot movie did, which was completely take everything and make it wrong? So I was like, how I always worry a little bit, right? Because
What are we doing?
as somebody who reads tarot regularly,
Hmm.
when something that's media comes out that does have to do with tarot, if it's like a horror or something, they're going to make it terrible, right? It's not going to follow the
Yes.
directions. It's not going to do anything that has to do with tarot. It's just basically going to be there to scare people. This was not that. This was lovely.
But did you read? Okay, so did you do any author research? I know most times you don't to
I did
kind of find
not.
out about the person. So this is her thing. This is the self-described version of witch that she is. And she
Oh,
describes her and her mom. Her mom is also a writer.
yes. Who
And
I have also not read.
so, right, but these are the two, like, these are the two I go between. I pick up all
Right.
their stuff. And they are, I heard an interview, and they are different types of witchery.
Different types of
Um,
magic people.
Yes. And so, like, she fully expresses this. And so, like, this is very much her knowledge. And so I expected it to be pretty close
It's very close.
to
And I will say,
accurate.
like I chose because the book is about the Kingdom of Pentacles, which is one of the suits of the of tarot. For
Hmm.
those who don't read, and Pentacle is a star, right? And so
Hmm.
I actually chose my star shirt today because I was like, this makes sense. And when she started talking, like when they started talking about it, and they started going into like different things and the way they were even to the way they were describing some of the characters, I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense with this card in that deck, right? And
Hmm.
so I thought it was very interesting when, you know, our male main character who shows up, right, and he is the Knight of Pentacles, and I was like, oh, okay, but like if you look at the definition of the Knight of Pentacles, he fits almost to a T. And I was
Nice.
like, this is great, I love it. And then as they're describing, I felt like I cheated a little bit because
Oh.
I already knew. And so when he's describing the bad guy,
Mm.
right, your villain of the book, it's definitely that card definitely embodies
You already
his.
had
I
some
already knew it,
insight. Yes.
right? And so he was like, "Oh, he's like, I'm trying to get back at 4 or whatever." And I was like, 4. And then I was like, "Oh, like if like the number 4." And then when you look at it, the 4 in the tarot deck for the 4 of Pentacles is actually somebody who holds everything close, who's very
Mm.
like very selfish, and they're scared of letting any resources go. They're scared of all these things. And so it's very much that like greedy mentality in
Oh,
like a reversed form. So
I had
it
no
was very much like I
idea.
was like, oh, that tracks. I'm in. Like as soon as I
Yeah.
found out, I was like, we're good. I was like, because who in the entire set of Pentacles cards are you going to choose to be a villain in this? And I was like, because most of the cards are good. And then they picked that one. I was like, that's like the one card you could have picked,
That's the one.
right?
Yes.
So I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. I was like, that will be fine.
Yes. See, and I figured it was a reference like that because what kind of name is four?
Right.
Like spelled just like the number. So I
You're like,
figured
why?
there was probably something, but I don't know well enough without my little guidebook to
That's fair.
understand and know.
And I love that the world is called Towerfall. I think that's great because I
Right?
mean, the tower is one of my favorite cards in the entire deck. One
Yeah.
of my favorite cards, and it's because it signifies drastic change that puts you back on the right path, which is
And I
exactly
think
what
for a lot
happened,
of
right?
people, it's scary. Like,
Yeah, oh,
this
it's
is
supposed to
like
be.
the ominous,
Yeah,
scary card. But
yeah,
when in reality, it doesn't. It's not.
yeah.
We're
It's
okay.
categorized by violent change, and that doesn't mean violence is in like terrible, horrible, like blood shedding things. It just means that it's not going to be comfortable, and change isn't. So
Right.
that's understandable. But I love that all of those tiny little pieces were kind of like thrown in here because as a person who lives in that space, I love that. I love that part.
Yeah. And I can say, as someone who doesn't fully understand that space, I still love the story too.
I was gonna say, so did you rate this book?
I did.
What did
I
you give
gave
it?
it 4 stars.
Okay.
Um, most of her books are solid 4 stars. I love a world in which we have a snarky, sarcastic, dry humor leading woman
Right.
who is in the mundane, everyday world, trips and falls into a portal, into a magical realm.
Then all
Like,
of a
and
sudden we're
magic is
somewhere with,
everywhere.
and we were without any modern convenience whatsoever.
Yes, but like, these are the books that I love, and these are why I love her books because this is a theme, and I love what are we? I think I called it like magic realism.
Maybe.
Something like that.
Either
It
one
was
of those.
something like that.
Yeah,
I can't.
this was not a mistaken magic book. This was a
No.
there's magic and we know that there's magic.
Yeah, but it was like she just kind of tripped and fell into it, literally.
Literally.
I
Yes.
love this. I
And I
love
love that it
just the
takes her
possibility because
time.
you could just be walking down the street and that next trip might be your portal into a magic world. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't
And
know.
like she was having a shit day and she was like, look, this day could not get worse.
Yeah.
And then she finds herself in a place where they're like, you must be a witch because what is that thing in your hand that lights up when you you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it's just I just thought it was very and very like realistically done to a way that she was like, where am I?
Yes.
What is happening? I will tell you, I gave this book a 3.75 because we know I do quarter stars. And there's only one reason I gave
There's
this book a
so much
3.75,
craziness.
right?
Quarter stars.
Quarter stars.
Insane.
I gave it a 3.75 for one reason and one reason only. And
Okay.
it would have been a 4 without this.
Okay.
You and I have spoken briefly about this singular phrase that was in this book. And I will tell you, to each their own. Don't do that. See? I can't. The phrase good girl makes me want to vomit in my mouth. And I get that it's a thing for a lot of people, and I get that it's also like a huge part of the trope. Like, there's a reason that it's a stereotype
Hmm.
for romance novels, right? There's a
Hmm.
reason for that because it does a lot of things for a lot of people. Apparently, I am not a lot of things, and I am not a lot of people because it was not. And I'm telling you, the first time I read the phrase good girl, I was like, maybe she's kidding. And then I read it again, and I was like, she's not freaking kidding. And
She's
then I
not
read it again,
kidding.
and I was like, literally rolled my eyes while I was reading it, and I was like, okay,
Yes.
like, and you
Yes.
and I talked about this previously. Like, I think part of the reason that it's not something that I really enjoy is because I live my life typically good, right? I'm not gonna say I'm a good person, but I follow rules because I'm a firstborn daughter. Like, I follow the rules, I do what I'm
Yes.
told, I get my work done, I don't procrastinate. Like, I just do what I'm told. So if
I
you say,
follow
be a
the
good girl, I
rules.
want to punch you because I already am,
And don't tell me what to do.
right? Like, what
Ew.
more do you want from me?
Don't tell me what I'm already doing. Don't tell me to do what I'm already doing, what I
Yeah,
already know to be
because,
true,
right? Because if you do, I'm definitely not going to do it.
right?
Right? So it's
Now
that part of the
I'm going
trope
to
and
despise
the
you.
like
Yeah,
when you tell me what to say to you, also don't do that. There's enough going on up here. I don't need your input.
right?
And so,
Don't need I don't need anyone else's opinions at this point
right?
in time.
So
Yes.
I will like the rest of it, right? He gives her a nickname. Love a good nickname.
Hmm.
Love a good nickname. Like a nickname that only the two of them know.
Yes.
That's totally fine. I think that's super cute. It's happened in a couple of the books I've read recently and I'm like, that's great. Like I
Yes.
like that a lot.
We're here for
But
that.
when right, I'm here for that all the time. Especially if it's like if it makes sense in a way, right? But you would also kind of need the backstory if you were on the outside. Love that.
Right.
But that's the only reason it didn't get 4 stars for me. The only reason. Because I can't. Because every time I see, like, I feel like a middle schooler who's just giggling because I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like,
Yes, I feel that. I
it
do
takes me out
feel
of the book
that.
a little bit. It takes
Yes.
me out. And I
Yeah,
don't know,
I can see that.
right? And I don't know if it was, because this is a newer book. So I don't know if
Hmm.
it was added because it is so prevalent in that
Right
space
now, yeah,
right now,
it's a very
which is
popular.
possible,
Hmm.
right? And if it does it for a lot of people, that's totally cool.
Yeah.
Like I said, it makes me giggle and I feel
I was
like
gonna
a
say,
child.
I feel like that sums it up completely. We get to the spicy parts, and I'm like, he said, do it.
Right?
And for some reason, I always think of that reel or that TikTok, I forget. It's the couple who like reenact some of these things and just
Oh, yes.
cannot
Yes.
keep a straight face. They're dying laughing, and you're like, yeah, that's kind of weird in real life. And so, like, that's what I see in my head when they're like, be a good girl. I'm like, that's so weird.
Like, no.
Yeah.
Also, the tiny defiant streak in me is like, absolutely not.
Well, now that you told me to,
Now that
I'm
you said
not
it,
going to.
I will do the exact opposite of whatever that is.
Right?
Which, funny enough,
Right.
she does throughout the whole book. She doesn't do it on
Oh,
purpose to like defy him. It's just that she's like, I have no idea what's going on. You have thrown me into this
yes.
world, and now I'm supposed to like save things and be a heroine, and I can't even like
And
run a
trust
pitch
you?
at my work. Like,
Yes.
there's nothing there. So, of course, she's constantly not being a
A
good
good
girl.
girl. Yes. Yes. Constant. And I love that though, because she's like, why? Like, I don't know. I think about if I were to fall into a portal, like, you wouldn't change because you would know how to problem solve. You would
Yeah.
know how to strategize in this day and time and everything. But if
Yeah.
you get thrown back in time and like now you're fully at the mercy of someone else telling you
Yeah. How things are
what's
in the
happening
world.
or not even telling you because he wasn't saying much. He was not communicating much in the beginning.
He wasn't very good at that. No, but also
And
she
you're like,
wasn't
I
doing
don't
much to
know.
help.
I mean, no, they were definitely both at fault, but like how crazy of a situation.
I agree.
Just
Oh,
insane.
do you know what the other part that I really loved is?
Tell me.
The mirrored, like the mirrored people. So, like
Yes.
the fact that many of the people she knew in her current life were
Hmm.
mirrored in
Hmm.
somebody that was in Towerfall.
Hmm.
So, like a guy in the elevator, the person she works with, her nemesis at work, like all these different things were
Yeah.
mirrored similarly in their
Pretty
characteristics.
close, yes.
Yeah, to a point that like you could hate them in both realms. And I loved that. I loved being able to be
Fucking
like, ah,
Stephanie.
and the fact that she wasn't warring with like, well, do I have to like this person here and not like this person there? Like, no, if she hated them there, she hated them here. And it was perfect.
It was pretty apparent, yes.
Hmm.
Yes, on who we were and who we were not enjoying. I
Exactly.
will tell you that is also a theme in some of her other books.
Oh, good.
So it
I
is
like that.
very much, I would say it's a very similar vein to some others that I've read.
Of hers.
Yes,
So it
yes.
seems like she has a style, which is very, we've talked about this before of some of our other
Hmm.
favorite authors. I enjoy when somebody has a style because then it's something
Yeah,
like I can become comfortable. I would read if there
yes.
were, if there were other books of the other lands, like if it was the Kingdom of Cups, the Kingdom of Swords, whatever, I'm going to
Mm.
read all of them.
More are coming.
All of them. Are they? Did we? I didn't look it up.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
So
I said that.
The Lovers
Oh,
is the one coming in October, and I believe she said that there will be 4 books.
oh,
So
I love
it'll be a
that.
full series. But yeah,
Hmm.
so
I love that because I think I finished the book and I looked directly up at Mike and I was like, I would read a whole series of
hmm
these. Like
hmm
I
I would
devoured it
totally read
so
more.
quickly.
Yes,
I devoured it
yes,
so quickly. And I can get past because the thing with books of this nature, romance stories, yada yada, when the romance scenes take over the plot, that bugs the crap out of me. Like, if I
yeah.
wanted to read Corn, I would go find something of that nature. I
I
wouldn't
was
do
like,
it.
what?
I
It took me a
wouldn't do it
minute.
like right. I'm reading my book for the story. The other
Yes.
spicy bits are like seasoning, right? Sprinkle them in here and there. It's fine. It adds to the story, whatever. But once you cross that line over to where I'm like, okay, I now know that I have to skip the next 4 pages because all you're doing is boinking one another. I don't want that. That doesn't add to my story. You're not solving any of the
No.
problems. You're still stuck in the same world
Right?
with bad
How are we
people.
solving the problem? We're
And so
just ignoring it.
yeah, and so when I can get like I can look past some of the like the only like I said the only part that I didn't like about the book is not one that literally detracted from what I was doing or like the story I was reading. I still enjoyed the story itself. The book I just finished, which we'll talk about another time, also same thing. And so I'm like I like that where it adds to the story
Yeah.
but does not overtake the story.
Yeah, because I'm here for the story.
Yeah.
I
And I
love I
think
love a good magic story.
agree. And I think it reminds me of something that you had talked about in a previous episode where you were like, "Oh, we spent 3/4 of the book dealing with her problem, like figuring out what her problem was." And I was like, I hate that because then now I don't have any space to
Mhm.
finish out the story.
Yes.
It's got to be a balance. And I really put it to people who can, like Kristin, who
I was
can
gonna
put
ask,
her stuff
yes.
together
How did
and
you
make a
enjoy the
story.
pacing of
I
this
loved
one?
it.
How did you enjoy? Okay.
I loved it. I
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have any like negative thoughts on it. There are some
Hmm.
books where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna put this down and come back to it because like it's not going anywhere. I'm finding myself to be
Yeah.
bored.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that at all. Where I just kept reading and I was like, okay, 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 and then I was like, okay, I need to like make dinner. Like it is
Yes.
bedtime,
Suddenly I have to go to the bathroom. I should probably put this down.
right? Like I have had no
Yes.
water,
Yes.
which is
Oh,
why
my
we
watch has
prepare
been telling
ourselves
me to
before we.
stand.
It keeps dinging at me and I don't know why. It's like, you're not going to make your stand goal today. You're darn right I'm not, but I am going to finish this book. And I do think I finished it. I think I I think I did it in a day. Like, I
I was
don't
gonna
think it
say it
took.
was like day and a half. I think it was
Yeah.
very similar because it was such an engrossing story.
Yes.
And I love that. Also, I forgot and then was reminded when I started this story. I love when authors write from the I perspective. I feel like that throws me into the story
Oh yeah.
a lot more, and I feel like I'm a part of this world. So I forgot about that, and I was curious because I don't remember if you enjoy that or if you don't enjoy that.
I think I think I enjoy it, but I don't make a picture of the character. So if you had asked me what she
Oh,
looks
okay.
like, I have no clue.
You
I have
don't
no
know.
clue
Yes.
because I saw it from the
You
perspective
see it
of
from
me as the narrator,
inside.
right?
Yeah,
So I don't know. I can't tell you what, like, I didn't commit her details to memory. And it's
that makes
probably a
sense.
bad thing, but I think that's what I do. And so that's why I don't put the same thing happened in one of what's her bucket's name? What's the big girl that does Sarah J. Maas? One of Sarah J. Maas's characters. And right, I was like, what is that big author's name? Look at me. Sorry, Sarah. Um, one of her stories, like the character, I can't tell you what she looks like. Like I have no idea
Yeah.
because we've been her for so long that I'm just like,
Yes.
I know she doesn't look like me because there's no way I can do all those things. Also, like a half demon's not gonna be like, hey, you're the one I pick for your strength. No, but I have no idea what she looks like, right? And so I think that's what happens. The details of the character get lost on me a little bit because I'm so otherwise enthralled by what we because we're on this journey
Everything
together now,
else.
what we're
Yes.
feeling, what we're experiencing, what's going to
Yes.
happen, a little bit of that, like she writes it so well. Like Kristin writes this so well that you feel a little bit of like the nervousness, a little bit of the jittery, a little bit of the excitement in certain things, a little bit of like
Yeah.
the pain of what she's seeing. Like there are many things where you're like, oh, it evokes actual feelings, which is what we
Yeah.
like.
It almost forces it a little bit more
Yeah.
because now you are in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like it's happening not necessarily to you, but to the you in the story.
To the you of the story.
To
Yes.
the you of the story. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I did. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. And I feel like when the next one comes out, like we read it so quickly
we
and
did. I might have to
it
read it again.
was such a good book that I wouldn't mind revisiting it. It's like if The Lovers comes out in October and I'm like, oh, I really need to revisit. I don't feel like this is going to be a drag to revisit
No.
because it was a really good story. It was quick and easy because it was so well written and so easy to get into that you just like almost felt like maybe like floating in a river rapid,
Yeah.
like you just get in and go.
And we're going.
Like you don't have to think, you don't have to react, you're just in it and along for the ride.
Yeah. And I also wonder because if the lovers is coming out, I wonder who the main characters are going to be because they wrapped this one up so nicely. Like I love the way that this one ended. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is the way. Like, I didn't see it coming, and I really enjoyed it. But it also follows the hero's journey of the cards, so it made perfect sense. And
Yes.
I really loved the way they ended this one. So I'm like, I don't know that I would be okay with them being the main characters again,
Rehashing.
right?
Yeah.
Like, y'all have
Yeah.
already done some shit, so I don't know that we need to put more on your plate right now. You have enough going on. So I would love to know who would be the main characters in the next one.
Yeah.
And if do they come to Towerfall the same way? Is there the same thing? Like what? So many questions because there's so many possibilities. But I love that
So
because she's clearly built a
there
world
really are.
here.
Yes. And I love the way that it ended with a wrap up instead of like a massive cliffhanger.
Yeah,
I do
or
not
I have to go
like,
find.
yeah, I don't like those. So I feel like the next book, and that's why I was kind of thinking you may not have to reread to get into the next book
No, but I
because
might
I
just want to.
feel the way that the book wrapped up, I do feel like they're going to be new characters. I do feel like we're in this world and maybe it will be somebody we've already met, but maybe didn't give a lot of thought to somewhere along the way. I don't know.
Oh. As I
Because
went
I'm
through, I
now I'm
like picked
thinking
up
of
like
like,
three people where I was like, maybe, like not that one, but
yeah,
maybe that one. Mm,
yeah. So I
I would be
because
okay
I
with that.
know they're all going to be in and of that same world.
Yeah.
So I am curious if maybe there was a hint to somebody
I love
and we
Towerfall.
just don't
I
know
thought
it
it was
yet.
so fun. And the fact that like this giant tower in the middle of all the kingdoms is like falling apart and whatever, and you're like, what, why? It's you could tell why. But I
Hmm.
just think it's cool that like we bring magic and we, you know, the way that they handle it between the nobility and not. And I don't know. There were so many more levels to this book than I was expecting. And I
Yes.
was okay with it because that I think is what draws me in, right? When there's more things for me to talk about than I originally anticipated.
And the word that comes to mind is realistic. Like
Yeah.
it didn't seem so far-fetched or like we were grasping at different concepts to tie all these different things together.
Yep.
And I love that when it just makes sense,
It did.
but
You
it's
didn't have to
also
question,
not flat. We had,
right?
like you said, we had so many other points to bring in and so many other themes,
Yeah. Of
but it all
discussion that
felt,
mattered.
yeah, yeah, and it all just felt easy, comfortable.
It did. It did. And I think I also enjoyed the fact that it's kind of like when you watch a movie, right? When you watch a movie and something happens and you're like,
I have
that's not
questions.
how that would happen, but we're just going to pretend, right?
Right?
It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know, it's movie blindness or cinema magic or whatever the heck they call it. Books have that too, where you're like, okay, yeah, totally, you could fall through in from one world into the other, and there are however many. Like, we're pulling a little bit of the Marvel string there, which is fine. Um, but I think it was very much just like easy to accept.
Hmm.
Where I was like,
Hmm.
yep, yep, that follows, that
I
follows.
mean, that made perfect sense. You're on a bus 1 minute and now you're in the historical
Right,
country past.
right.
Like,
I
what?
also love that her terrible ex boyfriend's name was Chad. That was funny
Did
because
that
that's
not feel
also a
great?
trope.
You're like, oh,
It was great.
Chad.
Nothing against the real Chads of the world, who are
Sorry,
kind and
Chads.
nice and try, treat people well. But there's a like the Chad bro thing is a trope here. It is like it's a meme, it's a gif, it's all the things. So to have that kind of filter its way
You
into a book,
you kind of knew,
mm-hmm,
right? Like
immediately.
you knew meeting him. You're like, oh, your
Like,
name's
ugh, Chad.
Chad. Like, we know how we're supposed to feel about you.
We do. But I also think about like when I read books from, you know, things that were written a decade ago, 20 years ago, whatever, that I just pick up again. And you go to read things, or when it starts to talk about certain time periods that we did experience, I'm like, oh, I remember that, right?
Mhm.
But then you read something from 20 years ago and you're like, that wasn't, like, that's weird. Like, why is that a thing? Why was that mentioned here? It's so nuanced to be mentioned here. Well, it probably meant something at that time. So in
Mhm.
20 years, if somebody picks up this book, it's like, what is it? Chad? That's such a weird name. When the
What's
rest
a
of us are like, it's
Chad?
Chad.
But you don't understand. He's a Chad. He's a total
It's a
Chad.
total Chad. But that might not mean something to somebody else. So I do find myself, when certain things like that come up, I find myself being like, I wonder how somebody later on, right? If Addie decides to read
Yeah.
this at some point in 10 years, 10, 15 years, what is she going to be like, Chad? Like,
Yeah. I think Kristen wrote enough of the character
oh yeah,
to give us feelings no matter what his name is. So
he's a jerk.
I feel like yeah, she wrote him in a way that will transcend his name, but we knew
Yes.
instantly
Right. But we, like, it
with the
had that
name. Yes.
connotation with it already. And I was
Yes.
like, that's hilarious. And I love that she did
Yes.
it.
Yeah. And I feel like fucking Stephanie just
Right?
rolls off the tongue in
It does.
like
But I have
the
several
best.
Stephanies in my life that I really, really enjoy and really, really love. But it was
That's
just so
true.
funny the way that she had like written this character where you were like,
Yes.
oh, she's the
Yes.
worst.
Yes. And it
She's
did.
the
It
worst
just
everywhere.
felt so natural.
It was,
It
yeah,
was great.
it definitely was. I love that. And when you were talking about the like on Instagram or the Reels or whatever, when you have the people who are playing the characters right now.
Hmm.
So the one who's playing the male character on Instagram, he also played the male character at some of the like the balls or whatever that the fantasy balls that they've had that were
Oh,
ACOTAR
like the
themed.
cosplay stuff? Okay.
Yeah, so the ACOTAR like themed balls or whatever,
Hmm.
he played Cassian, who's one of my favorite characters from that series. And so it was funny to see him as Cassian. And then I was like, oh, I like this guy. And then it showed up here, and I was like, I'm reading that book right now. Like, so I do have
I'm
a slight
reading.
picture of what she's supposed to look like based upon what
Right.
that lady looked like. But it was very funny. There are certain, to the point that I saw the video and then I read one of the lines that he says and laughed twice because I had remembered seeing it, and then proceeded to share it and was like, this is funny because,
Yes.
and shared it with somebody who hadn't read the book yet. And I was like,
And now
look
we're
at this,
seeing
it's
what this
hilarious.
would look like.
Right? I love that. Because there are certain books I would love to see like an adaptation of right away
Hmm.
because I just enjoyed it in book form, so why can't I watch it in movie form?
Yes. Yeah.
But
Do you think this would be one of those?
yeah, why not? Right? This one seems fun. It seemed like it had enough like magic and activity and different places and like a centralized theme and a centralized setting, like all the things that I feel like make a good cohesive movie
I
without
feel like
having
episodes.
a show would be awesome. Are you kidding? A show would be awesome.
Episodes. Hmm. Hmm.
That would be very cool.
Yes.
Yeah,
We're
I
here
would
for
watch
it.
it. Yeah, I would watch that given that I read the book, right? And if we
Hmm.
have more, then we just get a whole several seasons
Yeah. That'd
like
be
we did
great.
with The Witcher, which I still haven't read yet, and I'm still upset about for different reasons. But I did watch them, all the ones that we have so far, so I enjoyed it,
Yeah.
and I still think I would probably like the books better, but worth taking a look at. The show itself was
Hmm.
good,
Hmm.
so I can't say no.
So I won't say no.
Exactly, but I would totally read. Yeah, and I loved like I know you can't. It might not be super easy to see, but I loved like the way that she's sitting and all of the like the way that they. Oh, I didn't realize that the little mirror was actually like
It's shiny. It's a
shiny.
shiny mirror.
It
Yes.
is a shiny mirror,
I
but I love
love
the
the
way
look
that
of the
it.
book.
Oh yeah, it looks like a card, like it's
I was
supposed
gonna
to.
say, it looks like a very cool card
Yeah,
for sure.
it
And
even
I'm
has the pomegranates
curious.
on it, which I didn't notice until right now. It has the pomegranates on the top, which you
Oh, I
figure
love
out
that.
if you
I
read the
did
book, you'll
not.
know. But it does at the very top. There's pomegranates.
Yep, there they are. I didn't even think about that.
That's so fun.
That was great.
I agree. Um, but you'll have to read the book to figure out what pomegranates are about.
Yes. That one we will not
That
spoil
we will
because
not
it
tell
was
you. No,
great.
that's a fun one.
It was great.
It was.
Yes. So curious. Has anybody else read this? I know it
Yeah.
is new. I'm not typically a hype book girl, but I am a fangirl for Kristin, so I was definitely in on the train, on the
Make an
hype train.
allowance for your a favorite
Yeah,
author, which I do as well.
right?
Right? Yeah. I was talking to my daughter the other day as I was looking for books for something and found out that the next book in the Nora series that I'm reading doesn't come out till November. And so I had a minor hissy fit over that. And I was like, oh,
Oh,
November, which is why I'm glad I haven't finished the second one because I was like, oh, I'll wait and see because I know there's a third. I'll wait and see when that
mm-hmm.
comes out. So we might push that one to a later month. Just
We'll
so,
be
because the
pushing
last
that
one
one.
was a cliffhanger. It was a
Oh,
cliffhanger. And I don't want this one to be a cliffhanger too. We
no.
have a lot to read. We have a lot coming up.
We have a lot coming up.
We do.
Yes.
We have we're in the middle of Fourth Wing right now. So you haven't finished that one yet, right?
I have not.
Okay. So I will keep all of my thoughts on Fourth Wing to myself because I have some. Um,
That'll be a forthcoming episode.
forthcoming for fourth week. Fourth wing. Fourth wing. Fourth wing.
Forthcoming fourth wing.
Yes. And we've got what was the other one we just said? There's something else. I don't know. I have to go
What
read
did we?
Kristen's mom's books now because I haven't read any of hers and I really enjoyed her writing style for the story. So now I have to do that.
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, it just opened up a whole new world because
Yeah,
they collab, they write together, they write separate. There's a ton of books, so
it's
you've
gonna be
you've got
great.
a whole new world. I'm curious to know if anybody else out there is a fan or has read any or hasn't. Join us in submersing yourself in the Kristin Cast world.
In the world of cast. We did, fun fact, speaking of sharing things, we did just put out our first announcement for our very first book retreat in May.
Yes.
So that was on our story. We'll, throw that in a highlight or something so you can read it or see it since it'll be afterwards. So if you're interested in
Oh,
details
and
about a weekend
mhm.
long retreat,
And spots are already filled. there
They
are
are.
some spots that are taken, so we're very
Exactly.
excited.
We are excited to have a whole weekend of reading and relaxation and discussion and food and wine and all the good things.
Yes, yes. So if you're interested in joining us, go find our Instagram page, find the
Exactly.
details. If you have questions, reach out. Also, don't forget to subscribe because that's what we're doing in 25.
Yes.
Subscribe in 25.
And push all the buttons, all the things. If you need to find us on any of the socials, you can in the description. Facebook, Instagram, Threads. We're on all the places. But if you are a YouTube individual, then you are welcome just to hang here and send us a comment. And we'll be sure to get back to you on that as well. So we're excited to have you here. Super excited to have read something so new, right? I think that's a couple books we did.
Yeah,
I think I've done a couple new releases recently. So I'm hopping a
this
little
is
bit
a
further on
new
that train.
world.
It
Yeah,
is. It
I
is.
like it.
So adding it to the list, adding it to the book list of recommendations.
Yes, come check it out.
Exactly. Otherwise, we will see you next week. And until then, read well.
Adieu.
It was great to have you join us for today's chat. If you'd like to continue the conversation, provide a recommendation, or simply say hi, pop over to Instagram at wine.read.wine. Also, if you're the review type person, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave us an honest review on your favorite podcast player. Or leave us a comment on our YouTube channel. We'll see you on the next episode. Happy reading!